Jack was just getting dressed when the alert sounded. He had night duty and got to bed late in the morning. There were the last of the storage pods to be sent down into the mountain first thing in the morning, just after his shift. It was his responsibility, the transport of the pods, they being secured where they needed to be in their storage racks. There were already concerns that the 4 pods were well over their weight limit. What was initially to be 6 pods now compressed into 4 pods, an attempt to get ahead of the deadline. Over the weight limit, they were still scheduled. The pod cart and much of the machinery and technical support was to be shipped off the mountain over the following few days to another base. There could be no delays. He couldn't sleep. Because the curtains in his room were open and the late morning sun shined in. He could close the curtains, but he liked the sunlight, the warmth. He worked in a cave and had done so for weeks, getting off in the morning just to sleep in another man-made cave and dream in the caves of his mind. He had enough of the caves. A little sunlight was good, but he needed to sleep. He was preoccupied by the freight pods, making sure they were safely placed. The last of the pods would be ready by the time he got back to work. Just a few hours of sleep, that's all he needed. He was too tired to get up and close the curtains. Besides, the sunlight warmed the chilly room. He drifted in and out of sleep. He woke suddenly, sharply. How strange. The base was dead silent. It was never dead silent, least of all in the middle of the afternoon during peak activity. It never crossed his mind as to a reason. The base was always busy, always noisy. He bathed, dressed, and stepped out of his room just as the alert sounded. Emergency alert. Emergency alert. He could tell by the pitch of the alarm and the tone of the recorded voice. Airburst. A sequence of sharp pings and a general alarm was usually for the interval drills to get people to where they needed to be, a necessary break in the daily routine. A long, thunderous siren, similar to the horns on a ship, and a tin-covered artificial voice, was a general alarm. It meant the bombs started dropping, but not locally. Bombs dropping being an archaic euphemism for immediate global bombardment. A single long ring, and then a low, crisp male voice. Airburst. The bombs were coming. He grabbed a few personal items on impulse. His father's watch, a photo book that fit his pocket, and a notebook and pen. If it was a drill, it wouldn't matter to pick these things up. They'd be here when he got back. He jammed the notebook and pen in his back pocket with his photo pouch and snapped his watch on. He pushed through into the hallway. No one being in the hallway wasn't so shocking. They could already be at the rally point in the main court. Jack rushed to the main court, an open area filled with some potted trees and park benches. He saw no one. A hard chill from the wind off the rocks and the flat concrete walls made his fingertips tingle. Jack must be late. Jack charged through the open court towards the shelter entrance, cut into the mountainside, on the far western corner of the base. He ran as fast as he could down the concrete path to the wide steel blast doors, the stairwell opening. Flecks of frost and ice brushed his face. If he didn't make it, there would be another chewing out for Mr. Wilcox. Jack's mind raced, filled with doubts. Was this a drill? If it was not a scheduled drill. That had happened last week. The randomized drill wouldn't be until the following month, as scheduled. Jack leaned on the thick blast door and watched the top landing for anyone else. He passed no one on the way here. Usually, there was a string of last-minute stragglers pushing through the tunnel entrance, the supervisor standing by to count heads. "You're late." The supervisor wasn't there. Jack might be too late. Jack now stood at the bottom of the landing, staring at the top landing, waiting. Jack now understood. No one else reached the main court. No one else was coming down the stairs after him. He pressed his hands against the edge of the door, the first seal, hoping he would see someone else coming down the stairs. He felt a faint vibration in the concrete under his feet. This was the mountain. There was only one way a mountain would tremble. The door he leaned on started to close. He stared through the shrinking gap between the door and the frame, waiting for someone to burst through at the last minute, to hear someone cry out that they were on their way, to plead for someone to hold the door open. Only the alarm cried. Emergency, alert. Emergency, alert. The lights no longer flashed. No one else was coming. The door hissed, the airlines charging the locking mechanism as the heavy door sealed shut. The door pressed into the frame and the gasket sealed. The locking mechanism fell into place, airlines hissing as the pressure eased off. The first seal was complete. Jack Clipper felt the floor shiver again, a harder and heavier tremor which unsettled his balance. He steadied himself as he walked into the secondary chamber, a low, wide room made of concrete, layered in black tiles of thermal ceramic. It was a strange and elegant room, almost otherworldly, for how the ceramic tiles absorbed all light. The room was silent, as if the ceramic tiles absorbed more than just light. At the far end of the second chamber was the second seal. The second seal was still open. The blunt shine of the heavy door was a constraint to the darkness in the chamber. The low ceiling pressed down on Jack's mind as if the whole mountain was to come down on his head. He made haste. He was always uneasy in this chamber, even during drills or walking through on the start of one of his shifts. He got to know the armed guard standing every day at the side of the second seal, a guard who was not there now. The mountain shook again. A direct hit on the mountain might be enough to drop all the stone on everyone's head. What an idea, one's last living thought being the crushing realization of being trapped under the ruins of a mountain. In spite of the disquieting silence of the second chamber, Jack hesitated at the second seal, getting a feel of the moment, standing still, listening for the slightest sound. He still wasn't sure if he was late, a hope that he wasn't the only person down here. All through his mad dash through the base, he saw no one. That was impossible. Regardless of how routine the drills had become, it was still serious enough that someone got severe punishment for ignoring the drills, or for even being late. Jack Clipper was convinced he couldn't be the only person down here. He was almost always the last, making it through the doors just as they were closing. Jack stepped through the second seal. The second seal began to close.